Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters on the path, let me begin with a simple but powerful truth. Having this is very dangerous. What is this? This is unawareness. Unawareness of yourself. Unawareness of your mind. Unawareness of how you move through life. You see, a blade in the hand of a child is dangerous, not because the blade is evil, but because the child is unaware of its power. In the same way, your mind, if undisciplined, if unconscious, is the most dangerous thing you can possess. Let us not live life asleep. So how do we awaken? I want to share with you 5 habits, 5 daily practices that help cultivate awareness, discipline, and peace. These are not merely actions but ways of being. They are rooted in Shaolin tradition and yet timeless for every human being. Let me take you to a moment in the early morning when the world is still asleep and everything around you is quiet and still. And if you listen carefully, you will notice something very rare in this modern world. You will hear silence, you will hear your breath. And in that moment there is a doorway into yourself. This is where the first habit begins. Rising before the world, not because it sounds impressive or looks disciplined, but because it creates space. It gives you time before the day pulls you in 100 directions and demands your attention. When you rise before the world, you are no longer reacting to life, you are leading it. You are choosing your state of mind before the world gives you one through noise, news, stress, or pressure. And in that early hour when the world has not yet started running, you are able to walk slowly, intentionally, with awareness and purpose. This is not about waking up early just for the sake of it. This is about claiming ownership over your mind and your time. Let me remind you what happens when the opposite is true. When you wake up and the first thing you do is reach for your phone, when you flood your mind with messages, with headlines, with distractions, you give your power away before you've even stood up. And once that power is gone, you will spend the rest of the day trying to catch it. You will try to find focus, try to find peace, try to calm your mind. But the truth is, it was all possible only if you had created space at the beginning. And that's why having this habit of rising before the world is not optional if you want to live with clarity and discipline. What do you do in that quiet time? It does not need to be complicated. You sit with yourself, you listen to your breath, you stretch your body, you become aware of your posture, your thoughts, your emotions. And you do it not because it feels perfect or peaceful every time, but because it is practice in holding your ground before the wind of the day begins to blow. And even if your mind is not still, even if your body feels tired, you are training something far deeper than muscles or flexibility. You are training presence. Presence is the art of being where you are. And when you wake before the noise and sit with yourself, you learn this art slowly, patiently. And when the day begins, when others are rushing into their tasks and meetings and messages, you already have a center, a place to return to, because you started from that center. You will find that people who live with deep calm and strength have one thing in common. They do not let the world choose their rhythm. They create it. They decide when to speak, when to listen, when to move, when to be still. And this ability is not given. It is earned in the early hours, in the silence before the sun rises. It is true that some mornings will feel heavy. You will not want to wake, you will not want to sit and breathe. But it is exactly on those mornings that this habit becomes most powerful, because discipline is not about doing what is easy. It is about doing what is necessary, even when your emotions suggest otherwise. And when you push through that resistance with gentleness, not force, you discover something very beautiful, that your mind does not control you. You are more than thoughts, more than moods, more than yesterday. You become the observer, not the puppet, and that is a shift so subtle yet so powerful. It changes your entire way of living, and soon you will see this one small habit begins to touch everything else in your life. You become more patient in conversation, more calm in conflict, more focused in your work, because you are not running to catch up with the world. You are walking your own path, and that path began with presence. Rising before the world is not only about control, it is also about trust. Trusting that even if you start slow, even if you do less in the morning, your actions will carry more depth, more meaning, because they are rooted in awareness. And when your actions have depth, they don't need to be loud. They don't need to be many. One focused step can move mountains, more than 100 distracted ones. This is the paradox of discipline, that doing less with more presence achieves more than doing more with less clarity. And to rise before the world is the first door to that clarity, the first moment in the day when you remember who you are before the world tells you what to be. Start small, even 5 minutes before your usual time. Sit, breathe, feel your feet on the ground. Listen not just to sounds, but to yourself. And over time, let that 5 become 10, then 20, and maybe more, not because someone told you to, but because you feel the shift within you. Because you begin to see that peace is not something you chase, it is something you return to. And you can only return to it if you make space for it. So let the morning be yours, not the world's. Let that space shape your actions, your thoughts, your being, and walk into the day, not hurried, not stressed, but grounded, because you chose to begin before the noise chose for you. Let the first step be silent but powerful. Let the first breath be slow but deep. Let the first thought be yours and not the world's. And let your day begin, not by accident, but by intention. When the body moves, the mind follows, and when the mind is focused, the body moves with intention. This connection is not a theory, it is an experience. It is something you feel the moment you decide to train, not for appearance, not for others, but for yourself, for awareness, for inner mastery. Training the body is not about how much you lift or how fast you run. It is about how present you are when you do it. Every movement becomes a meditation. Every breath becomes a reminder that you are alive and that you are responsible for how you live. In the Shaolin tradition, there is no separation between body and mind. They are one. When the body is strong but the mind is weak, the strength is hollow. When the mind is sharp but the body is neglected, the clarity fades because the energy cannot hold itself. So you must train both, not to become something new, but to remember something ancient, something already within you. The discipline, the presence, the stillness, it is already yours, but you must uncover it through practice, through sweat, through silence. You do not need to go to the mountains to begin. You do not need perfect tools or special knowledge. What you need is consistency and sincerity. You need to show up for yourself and begin, even if it is 5 minutes. Even if it is only one posture or one movement that you repeat again and again until the noise in your mind quiets and the rhythm of your breath returns you to the present moment. And in that moment, you are no longer training to improve. You are training to remember. The world today celebrates speed. It celebrates efficiency. It teaches us to rush from one task to another without pause. But in Shaolin practice, every step matters. Every movement is deliberate. We are not rushing, we are arriving into this moment, arriving into our own being. And when you train your body with awareness, you teach your mind to slow down, to focus, to be here and nowhere else. Let me explain how this works in simple terms. When you hold a position for longer than your comfort, your mind will begin to resist. It will say, stop, this hurts. It will look for escape. And in that moment you are given a choice to obey the thought or to observe it, to breathe and to continue. And when you choose to stay, you break the illusion that your mind controls you. and you discover that strength does not begin in the muscles. It begins in the decision to stay. This decision to stay builds more than physical endurance. It builds mental clarity and emotional stability. Because if you can remain calm under tension, if you can stay present in discomfort, then you are training yourself to meet life's challenges with grace and strength, not panic and fear. This is the heart of training. It is not about creating a perfect body. It is about creating a stable spirit. Sometimes people ask, what is the best form of training? The answer is the one you can do with full attention. It can be walking, it can be stretching, it can be martial forms or still postures. The external form is secondary. What matters is the internal presence. If you move fast but without awareness, you train distraction. If you move slowly but with complete attention, you train presence. And presence is the foundation of mastery. Your training does not begin when you step on the mat or enter a gym. It begins the moment you choose to move with awareness, when you walk upstairs, when you wash your hands, when you carry something heavy. You can bring presence to that moment. You can breathe through the action and train your attention, and over time you will see that training is not separate from life. Training is life, and every moment becomes a chance to sharpen your focus and strengthen your being. Some days you will feel tired and your body will not want to move, and again you are given a choice to believe the story or to listen deeper, because tiredness is often not in the body, but in the mind. And when you begin to move, you will often feel energy returning, not because you pushed through, but because you aligned with life again, because you allowed the body to wake the mind, and the breath to wake the heart. This habit of training daily, even briefly, teaches you that discipline is not a punishment. It is an act of love. It is a way of saying, I care enough about my life to show up. I care enough about my future to prepare today. And that is a powerful message to give yourself, not once a month, not once a week, but every single day. You are telling your being, I am here and I am ready. There is no need for comparison. Your path is your own. Some will run, some will walk, some will fall and rise again. The pace does not matter. What matters is that you continue and that you do not give your practice away to excuses or distractions, because the strength you build in your body and the focus you build in your mind is what will carry you when life becomes uncertain. So move with presence, breathe with intention. Train not to escape life, but to meet it fully. And when others are shaken by the winds of emotion, you will stand like a mountain, not because you are without fear, but because you have trained to remain steady. And that steadiness began with one small choice to move, not just the body, but the mind, and to do it again and again until discipline became your nature and presence became your home. This is the second habit, not for appearance, not for others, but for mastery of self, for unity of body and mind, for the calm strength that cannot be shaken, because it was not built in haste, but forged in daily quiet effort. Every day we are thinking thousands of thoughts, and most of them come and go without us even noticing. They rise like waves, and we move with them without question, without pause, without understanding. And this is the problem, because what we do not question controls us. What we do not see drives our decisions, our emotions, our actions. And this is why having this habit is essential to anyone who wants to live with clarity and truth. We must learn to question our thoughts, to step back and ask, what is this thought? Where did it come from? Is it useful? Is it true? Or is it just noise? Most people do not do this. They wake up with a mind already full of opinions, assumptions, fears, and judgments, and they believe every one of them. They carry them into their day, they speak from them, they act from them, and then they wonder why peace feels so far away. But peace is not missing. Peace is just buried under too much thinking, too much believing, without awareness. And the solution is not to stop thinking. You cannot stop thoughts. They come and go like wind. The solution is to learn how to see them and choose which ones deserve your attention. When you start to question your thoughts, you begin to see the difference between a thought and the truth. A thought says, I am not good enough, I will fail, they don't respect me, I cannot change. But the truth is, you do not know unless you look deeper, unless you stay present with the thought and observe it without reacting. And that is where real freedom begins, when you create space between the thought and the reaction. In that space is your power, your choice, yourself. Many times we suffer not because of what is happening, but because of what we tell ourselves about what is happening. A person says one thing and our mind creates a whole story about it. They meant this. They always do that. They are against me. And before we know it, we are angry or sad or anxious, but not because of what was said, because of what we thought it meant, and we believed it without checking it, without pausing to ask, is this true? And this is how the mind tricks us again and again, unless we learn to step back and observe. Observation is not judgment, it is awareness. When a thought appears, we do not fight it, we do not argue with it, we simply notice it, we name it. This is fear, this is comparison, this is doubt. And already by naming it, we create distance. We are no longer inside the thought. We are watching it. And the watcher is free. The watcher is calm. The watcher can decide with clarity. To question your thoughts is not to be negative. It is to be honest. To recognize that not every voice in your head is wise. Some voices are echoes of the past. Some are the result of tiredness or stress. Some come from fear and insecurity. And if you follow all of them, you will be pulled in every direction and you will lose yourself. But if you stay still and observe, you will start to notice patterns and you will learn which thoughts support you and which ones sabotage you. This practice is simple but not easy. It requires you to slow down, to pause before you speak, before you act, before you judge, to take one breath and ask, what is really going on here? What am I believing in this moment? And is it true? Is it helpful? Is it necessary? And these questions are not to find the perfect answer, but to bring you back to awareness, to presence. Because a thought question is a thought weakened, and a thought weakened cannot control you. Sometimes the thoughts will be loud. They will demand your attention. They will come with emotion and urgency. And in those moments, the habit is to sit with them, to breathe and watch them pass like clouds in the sky. And they will pass, always, because that is the nature of thought. It is temporary, and if you do not hold on, it cannot stay, and you remain free. There is great strength in silence, not the silence of the mouth, but the silence of the mind that sees without rushing to conclusion, that hears without needing to respond. And in this silence there is clarity, and in that clarity you will find truth and peace, because truth does not shout, it does not panic, it waits in stillness. And when your thoughts become quiet, you will hear it not from others, but from within. This habit of questioning thoughts is not a one-time act, it is a daily practice. Every time you feel overwhelmed or angry or afraid, stop and ask, what am I thinking right now, and why do I believe it? And when you find the thought, do not push it away, do not judge it, just see it and let it go if it is not useful, and hold it if it is wise and kind and strong. Over time your mind will change, not because you forced it, but because you trained it, because you stopped feeding every random thought with your energy and attention. And just like a garden, only what you water grows. So choose carefully where you place your focus and what you allow to grow in your mind, because that becomes your life. There is nothing more powerful than a clear mind and a calm heart, and they are both the result of awareness, and awareness begins with the courage to question your thoughts and the patience to wait for the truth to rise, without force, without fear. And that is the third habit of mastery. Quiet observation of the mind, without being its servant, but being its guide. There is a place inside every person that is untouched by noise, untouched by chaos, and untouched by fear. A place that cannot be seen with the eyes, but only felt in the depth of stillness. This place is not found outside. It is not found in more doing, more speaking, more rushing. It is found in the quiet. It is found in stillness. And in a world that is always moving, always demanding, this stillness is not only rare, it is essential. Without it, we forget who we are. We forget what matters. We forget how to just be. Most people do not practice stillness not because they do not want peace, but because they have become addicted to motion, addicted to stimulation, and even in moments of rest, the mind keeps moving, jumping from one thought to another, planning, regretting, comparing, judging, never stopping, and this constant motion inside creates tension in the body and noise in the heart, and we call it normal, but it is not natural. Nature does not rush. It grows slowly, patiently, silently, and we are part of that same nature. Stillness is not doing nothing. Stillness is the space where everything becomes clear. It is the space where the body can rest, the mind can reset, and the soul can breathe. It is where the thoughts slow down and begin to lose their power, and what remains is presence. And in that presence there is peace, and in that peace there is truth. And this is why the habit of daily stillness is not a luxury. It is a necessity for anyone who seeks mastery of self. When you sit in silence without a goal, without a task, without a screen in front of you, you will notice that your mind resists. It will say, this is boring, this is wasting time, you should be doing something. But that voice is not your truth. It is the voice of conditioning, the voice of habit, the voice that fears stillness, because in stillness there is nowhere to hide, no distraction to run to, and what comes up is everything you have been avoiding, and this is the beginning of real work. To sit still is to face yourself. Not the image, not the idea, but the raw experience of being here now with no escape. And this may feel uncomfortable at first, but if you stay, if you breathe, if you simply watch without judgment, something shifts. The tension begins to dissolve, the thoughts begin to quiet, and underneath all of it, there is something more spacious, more gentle, more alive, and that is you, that is the presence, beyond thought, beyond identity. You do not need a perfect place to be still. You do not need a mountain or a temple. You only need a moment of choice, a quiet corner, a few minutes of no speaking, no reacting, no doing. You sit, you breathe, and you observe. Maybe you feel your heartbeat. Maybe you feel your breath. Maybe you hear sounds around you, but you do not follow them. You let everything be as it is, and you rest in that allowing. And in that simple practice, you begin to return to your center. This habit of stillness is not separate from life. It is what gives life balance, because without stillness, action becomes frantic. Without stillness, thoughts become chaotic. Without stillness, emotions become overwhelming. But when you build stillness into your day, even in small moments, you carry that quiet with you. You walk with more awareness. You speak with more intention. You respond instead of react. And you live not from fear, but from clarity. It is not the length of the stillness that matters. It is the depth. One deep breath with full attention can shift your whole state of mind. One silent minute with no distraction can reset your energy. There is something very healing about doing nothing, about sitting, without needing to improve yourself or explain yourself or impress anyone. And in that space, the body can release its armor, the mind can release its grip, and the heart can open again. And you begin to see that you are not broken, you are not lost. You are just covered by too much noise, too much doing, too much pressure, and stillness is the way back home. Sometimes the mind will say you are wasting time by sitting here, but the truth is you are saving time, because every moment spent in stillness gives you more energy, more clarity, and more focus when you return to action. And this is what most people do not understand. Rest is not weakness, it is wisdom. The bow must be unstrung if it is to remain strong. The body must be still if it is to move with power, and the mind must be quiet if it is to see clearly. Stillness does not mean absence of thought, it means not being pulled by thought. It means watching the waves without drowning in them. It means allowing what is without needing to change it, and in that state something very powerful arises. A calm strength, a quiet knowing that is not shaken by circumstances or emotions, and that is what this habit builds over time. To sit in stillness is to train your nervous system to trust again, to feel safe again, to return to a natural rhythm that is not forced, not pressured, but grounded. And from that grounded place you move through the world not as a victim of it, but as a master of your own state. And that mastery is not loud, it is not dramatic, it is simple, it is silent, it is steady. So give yourself that time each day, not because someone told you to, not because it looks good, but because you feel the difference, because you know in your bones that something deep inside needs this space, needs this quiet, to remember who you are before the world told you what to be. And that remembering begins when you choose to sit, be still, and listen, not to the world but to the silence within. Everything you take in shapes who you become. Everything you allow into your life, into your mind, into your body, becomes a part of your internal world, whether you notice it or not. It leaves a trace. And when you understand this deeply, you begin to look at the world differently. You begin to choose more carefully what you allow in, because you see that nothing is neutral. Everything either feeds your energy or drains it. Everything either brings clarity or confusion, either opens the heart or closes it. Most people are not aware of this. They go through life absorbing everything. They hear everything, they see everything, they read, and they wonder why they feel heavy, why they feel lost, why they feel anxious. But the answer is often simple. They are full of noise, full of images and ideas that are not theirs, full of fear that is not real, full of opinions that are not grounded in truth. And this is why this habit is essential to anyone who values their peace, their purpose, their focus. You must protect what you take in as carefully as you protect your home, your body, your breath. The food you eat affects your energy. The way you breathe affects your state. The people you spend time with shape your thoughts. The music you listen to, the movies you watch, the words you repeat. They are not just entertainment. They are instruction. They are direction. They are shaping your path moment by moment. And if you are not aware of that, you will become shaped by forces you did not choose. And that is how people lose themselves without even realizing it. You cannot live clearly if your mind is crowded. You cannot feel deeply if your senses are overloaded. You cannot hear your own truth if your inner space is filled with noise. And the only way to protect that space is to become more conscious. To ask yourself again and again, is this helping me or harming me? Is this expanding me or limiting me? Is this aligned with who I want to be or pulling me further from it? Every time you open your phone, every time you scroll through feeds, every time you engage with negative stories or angry voices or shallow distraction, you are making a choice, a small one maybe, but one that adds up, because repetition creates patterns and patterns become identity. And this is how the mind is trained, not by big moments, but by small repeated inputs. And when you feed your mind carelessly, it begins to reflect what you feed it. It becomes restless, reactive, confused. It is not about living in fear or cutting off the world. It is about being responsible, about recognizing that your attention is sacred, your mind is a temple, your body is a vessel, and everything you put into it matters. So you begin to ask deeper questions before you take something in. Who created this and why? What energy does it carry? What effect does it have on my mood, my thoughts, my choices? And if it does not serve your growth, your clarity, your peace, you let it go. Some people might say this is extreme, but what is more extreme than living a life that is not yours? What is more extreme than carrying around thoughts and emotions that do not belong to you just because you were not mindful of what you allowed in? This is not about fear. This is about power, about taking back the power to shape your own mind, your own body, your own path. Even your conversations matter. The words you hear every day, the tone people speak with, the energy they carry. These things enter you, they influence your inner weather, and if you spend time around people who complain, who gossip, who live in fear, you will feel that energy even if you don't agree with it. It will touch your nervous system. It will affect your inner state. Unless you are deeply grounded and aware, and most people are not grounded, they are reactive. They are absorbing everything like sponges and wondering why they feel off. This is why part of discipline is saying no with peace. No to certain conversations. No to certain media. No to certain foods. No to certain distractions. And not with anger, not with pride, but with clarity, with love for your own path, for your own energy. Because you understand now that what you consume is what you become, and you want to become something that reflects your highest truth, not your lowest habit. You can see the difference when someone has cleaned their inner space. Their energy is calm, their presence is strong. They speak less but with more weight. They listen more but with more attention. And they do not need to prove anything because their clarity speaks for them. And that clarity came not from doing more, but from subtracting, from removing everything that clouds the mirror and letting the truth reflect itself. Even small changes matter. Turning off noise for a few minutes a day, choosing music that uplifts rather than agitates, choosing books that nourish rather than distract, limiting the time you spend absorbing and increasing the time you spend creating, breathing, observing. This is how you build inner strength, not by force, but by making space and filling that space with what matters. Over time, your senses become sharper, your choices become simpler, your actions more aligned, and life starts to feel lighter, not because the world changed, but because your internal world became cleaner, and that clarity gives you something very rare in today's world, the ability to respond with wisdom rather than react with fear. And that is what this habit cultivates, not control, but freedom, not judgment, but awareness, not avoidance, but intention. That intention becomes the root of your strength, the foundation of your peace, and the reflection of your truth.